Hello, everyone. Welcome to our fourth weekly meeting. And as usual, this meeting has been programmed to last 1 hour. And we have a lot to cover, so I'll be the only speaker this evening. My camera and mic are enabled, but due to lack of time, yours have been disabled. If you have questions or comments to make, please type them into the chat box, and I'll address them at the end of the meeting. Well, let's begin by going to Blackboard. Okay, then let's have a look at the home page here. As usual, I want you to read through it, please, carefully. You'll see that I've extended the deadlines a bit. I think you've probably already noticed that. But the rough cut is, in fact, due theoretically this evening. But if you're not finished, I don't want you to go into panic. Just finish as quickly as you can, please, and upload it. This weekend, I plan on going through them and sending notes out because next week you all need to, finish your final edit. So you'll want to check discussion. You'll want to see what your peers have had to say about your movies, about your rough cuts, but you'll also want to check my notes. So do look carefully this weekend and be prepared to move on to your final cuts, of course, next week. Something else I want to point out here in this section of the homepage, there is a weekly, your first quiz is in fact going to be released this weekend. So it opens tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. That would be Friday morning tomorrow. And it will stay open until Sunday evening at 11:59. Now, you just get one chance at it. So be prepared, to go ahead and take it. It's a time test. It's actually a 50-minute test. There are 10 multiple choice questions. The questions are all actually taken from the slideshows in the first 3 weekly modules. So you'll want to go ahead and go through those slideshows a few times, I think, before you take the test. But I am offering you another advantage. I'd like you to treat this test as if it were an open book test. I'm okay if you look up answers on the internet, or if you go ahead and look at actually the slideshows as you take the test. You'll have to make your decisions quickly though, because since it's a time test, you're only going to have about 5 minutes per question. So you need to move onward. And you get just one chance, of course, so like I said earlier, to answer the questions. So anyway, enough on that. Let's take a look at the weekly module. Okay, I have given you 3 video editing slideshows to go through. Now, next week you'll be refining your rough cut, as we mentioned earlier, and you're going to want to, to have some good ideas, some good editing technique. After you've checked your notes from me and from your, whatever your fellow students, your peers have had to say about your work, I'd like to consider all of that and possibly make some decisions. But you also probably have some good ideas of how you would like to finish your edit. These 3 slideshows will help you quite a bit making those kinds of decisions. Let's have a look at these. We'll just run through them rather quickly. Video editing. No matter how good your video footage is, at some point you're going to have to edit it together to make your final edit. Video editing is about storytelling, and that means knowing why and when to make a cut. By combining video, sound, visual effects, music, and titles, you are trying to tell the best story possible out of many different parts. Editing basics. Moving images began in the 19th century with simple films like the Lumiere brothers, workers leaving the Lumiere factory in 1895. This had one static shot with no edits or camera movements. By the 20th century, filmmakers like George Méliès, Edwin Porter, and D.W. Griffith started to evolve the language of film. Between them, they introduced slow motion, the dissolve, fade in, fade outs, different camera angles and locations, close-ups, long shots, camera panning, and many more filmmaking techniques. Editing basics continued. In Russia, Sergei Eisenstein developed an alternative film language called montage, where you edit contrasting images together to give different meanings. With the development of sound, filmmakers like Orson Welles helped to develop further techniques with off-screen speech, overlapping dialogue, voiceover, and synchronized music. Further developments appeared in the latter of the 20th century, but most of the video editing techniques we use today had their creation in the first 50 years of moving picture production. 3-act structure. This is how we tell our stories. You should base your stories on 3-act structure. This means that your story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. How long each of these parts should be depends on how long you plan to make your final video. The middle often takes up most of the time, and it is where your story evolves. You can also understand the 3 acts as the setup, the action, and the payoff. This doesn't just apply to narrative drama. You can also apply it to documentaries and shorter news videos. You can apply it to your video as well. The rough cut. That sounds familiar. Building the rough cut of your video is the first step to starting your edit. You may have many different clips to choose from. Sometimes it can be difficult to know where to start. You also have to find the right tone, pace, and structure to your video. It is nearly impossible to get this right the first time. Rough cut continued. Remember to go through all your clips carefully so you make the best decisions on what you want to use. Take notes to remind you what you may have left behind. By dragging your chosen clips to the correct sequence timelines, you will quickly build a rough cut of your story. Radio edit. If you are struggling to find a structure to your edit, you should try cutting the dialogue, voiceover, or interview speech first. This is a really good technique to help organize your stories. The logic behind this is that your edit sounds good first without distracting visuals. This works as well for dramas as it does for documentaries. There's little point spending time cutting a montage only to find that you have to throw it out because you no longer have any reference to it in your spoken word. The master shot. The master shot is usually a wide establishing shot of a scene, which you will add cutaways to make it more visually interesting. It could be 2 people talking around a kitchen table for drama, or it could be an interview for a documentary or news report. Once you have dragged this clip into your timeline, you can start to add other camera angles or cutaways to highlight what the scene is about. Editing techniques. A good edited video should not draw attention to its cuts unless you intend your audience to notice them. In other words, you shouldn't notice the editing. Edits should flow seamlessly with the action of the dialogue. It should be logical why you add and edit. The opposite of this would be a jump cut. This edit breaks up the progress of time. In the past, you would only use a jump cut for deliberate purpose, but recently you will find them in many internet videos without any reason. They actually wake up the audience. Cutaways. That's something I want you to be aware of. Cutaways are a great way to fix jarring cuts. In a drama, a cutaway is a shot of an object or another view of a scene beyond the main dialogue or action. In a documentary or news video, it could be a group of shots showing what a person is speaking about. That should be exactly what you're doing in your video. As you're talking about something in your life, something about you, you should be cutting to an image portraying that. Cutaways continued. The cutaway is a lifesaver for covering your spoken word edits. It can help to make the video more visually pleasing. The cutaway doesn't always have to make sense. You may have a proud security guard in one shot and then a peacock in the next. This uses the cutaway as a metaphor for the guard's character and implies he is proud of his job. Match on action. This is an editing technique that you all need to be aware of. If you don't use your cutaways with some thought and use them too often, you can make your final video look jumpy. Sometimes it is better to match the cut across the edit. You can do this when you see movement between cuts. A man walking to a car door and putting his hand on the handle, or a woman jumping off a diving board and then entering the water are both examples of matching on action. By cutting from a wide shot to a close-up, you can compress time and speed up the pace of your film. Overlapping edits. Overlapping edits help break up a scene so each edit isn't so obvious. Editors call this an L-cut or split edit. If each cut always starts when a different person starts talking, it can start to feel repetitious. This will allow you to show a person, actually what I'm trying to say here is this L-cut will allow you to show a person's reaction to the dialogue and make the edit less obvious. You use trim and rolling edits to make this kind of editing style. The whole point is you hear dialogue being spoken, but you're watching a cut of someone who's listening. So I hope that makes sense to you. The dialogue actually overlaps the cut. Using sound effects and music. A loud sound effect can be a great way of disguising an abrupt edit. A slam of a door, a loud police siren, or a noisy ringing phone can startle the viewer and jolt them into the next scene. I was supposed to say next. This is a great way to smooth rough cuts or jump cuts. Music can also affect the pace of a scene and can add emotion or create excitement. In this way, you can tell the viewer how to feel and manipulate their emotions. It's amazing how important music is to a movie. Okay, well, that's it for that one. Let's go back. Let's look at video editing too. Hard cuts. Hard cuts are the most important and most often used edit. Many beginning editors like to explore using the fades, the wipes, the dissolves that are easily accessible in modern editing software. But be aware that overuse of these appear amateurish. In most feature films and television shows, using the hard cut is still the predominant editing style. They work great at matching action or showing continuity. Hard cuts, the most important edit that we make. Dissolves, fades, and wipes. Although dissolves, fades, and wipes should be used sparingly, they can be quite useful. They can smooth out edits and slow down the pace of your film. You can use dissolves to show a dream sequence or a flashback. You can use them to show a progression of time. Wipes are often used in science fiction films. I think you all have an idea of how often George Lucas puts them into his movies. Star Wars was filled with them. Fixing problems. It may happen that when you come to your edit, you may not have enough material to finish the job. Boy, this happens quite a bit. This is where a good editor skill can shine. If you don't have everything you need to finish your edit, you will need to be creative. Fixing problems continued. If your interview needs part of the dialogue cut out in different places, but you have no cutaways, you could use jump cuts to create more energy. If there is a microphone in the shot, you could push in on the image slightly to crop it out. If your interview is out of focus, but the sound is fine, then just dump the visual and tell the story with cutaways and audio only. Temporary media. You may need to start editing your film even though you are still missing some of the video or other media parts. If this is the case, you can use temporary media to fill the gaps. If you're missing some special effect shots, you can put in a title card as a placeholder to remind you that you are missing this shot. Just make sure you put clear information on the title card about what you need to replace it, as you may forget if you have many similar placeholders. Narration, a very useful tool. You can use narration to fix problems with your story. If it is unclear what someone is talking about, you can record some audio links to explain and link the video clips together. You can also use narration to explain a story when associated with visual images. Try not to overuse narration and try not to state the obvious. You might want to put narration over some of your cutaways, by the way. Narration continued. Once you have finished your rough cut, you can write out some narration links. This is what I was referring to, and then record them into your smartphone. Just remember to be close to your smartphone if you are not using an external microphone. 3 words of recorded audio equals 1 second of recorded video. This will help you calculate time between your interviews or actors speaking. Your narration should be informal, so make sure you write it in the manner that you talk. Multi-cam edits. This is something you might want to try at some point. If you have more than one smartphone, or maybe you can borrow a friend's, you can use them to film multiple camera angles. This will give you more choices for your edit. If you're filming a set-down interview, you may have one smartphone filming the person answering the questions and another filming a 2-shot with the interviewer as well as the interviewee. By the way, 2 shots are a very, very common shot. They're sometimes known as the Hollywood shot. Well, because Hollywood made them famous. You can then synchronize these 2 shots together so you can quickly switch between them. Multicam edits continued. Most desktop editing applications now support multicam editing, and it won't be long before smartphone editing applications support it as well. If you don't have synchronized timecode on your video clips, you can create a sync point by matching the waveforms of the sound on each video clip. When you do this, you will prioritize the clip with the best audio, and this will become the master audio you use for the multicam. Multicam edits continued. If you don't have any sound to sync up your clips, you can use a hand clap or a visual reference. Once you have done this, you can create a multicam sequence. You will now see the different camera angles in your source window. As you play through the multicam sequence on the timeline, you can add edit points and change angles. While you're doing this, your audio will stay in sync between the matching shots. By the way, Premiere does have a special tool that helps you with multicam edits if you want to try such a thing. Fine cutting. Once you are happy with your rough cut, and hopefully you are, you will need to do a detailed review of it to see if it is working. That's exactly what I've been encouraging you about to do quickly this weekend. Do you tell the story? Does it make sense? Does it have the right mood for the subject? Does it have a good flow? Is it too short or too long? You need to review and answer all these questions. You may find that you need to change some parts or cut them out altogether. Sometimes you need to be ruthless with your edit to get it to work. By the way, I'm fine with you removing the parts that don't work. Just make sure the overall story works. Fine cutting continued. Other issues to consider are shortening dead air when someone has finished talking. Make sure, that's what I'm saying. Make sure you cut your clips, all the useless part, out of your video. Making sure you haven't cut off any words, of course. Making cutaways so they have the most impact for your video. Making sure you re-record incorrect narration and not using shots if they don't move the story forward. To cut to the story rather than the shot itself, and never making a cut without good reason. For an opinion, have someone who knows the art of video editing take a look at your edit and make comments. By the way, that's exactly why I had you upload your rough cuts. I want your peers who are training as editors to take a look and make notes for you. And I, in turn, of course, will be making notes for you. Editing on time. One of the hardest jobs in editing is getting your final video to run to a specific time. How long your video runs for usually depends on where you're going to show your final video. If you were cutting a video for an hour of television with commercial breaks, then your final video would need to be 42 minutes. Now for us, I asked for a minute, but believe it or not, I don't mind if it's a little under that or a little over that. I would rather you would trim away anything that doesn't work in your final cut. Editing on time continued. A feature film has to be 90 minutes. A commercial can be 10, 30, or 60 seconds long. If you are making a video for YouTube, the audience likes videos to be 3 to 12 minutes in length. If you're making a video for Facebook, the average is about 30 seconds to a minute. Editing on time continued again. So be aware of your proposed duration of your video before you shoot it. These kinds of decisions need to be made well ahead of time. There is no point filming hours of material you don't wish to get rid of. Plan wisely before you film anything with the edit in mind, and you will have an easier job with the final edit. Finishing your video. When you are happy with your final edit, you need to take some time to conform it to some basic standards. Make sure, again, we're talking about your final cut here. Make sure there are no flash frames in your final video. Flash frames refer to black frames caused by gaps left between clips on the timeline, or leftover clip of video you thought you had cut out. So you need to look carefully for flash frames. Run your video back and forth until you're sure you have fixed all the gaps. Finishing your video continued. Make sure that your audio peaks to the same place. That means you should keep your levels the same or very similar, between your clips. On most editing applications, you will see audio bars to show where your audio is peaking. Premiere has a VU meter that has green bars that you can watch, and you don't ever want it to peak into the red, or you want to go ahead and drop the sound, drop the levels. When filming an interview, you may have to adjust audio levels several times. To correct this, adjust your audio in the edit so all your dialogue peaks to the same place. That way you won't have quiet and loud parts. The same goes for background music, surrounding sound, and sound effects. Finishing your video again. It is important to color correct any problems with your image. Be sure to fix images that are too bright or too dark. If the white balance is too blue or orange, then you need to correctly balance it. There are a lot of tools to help you do that, by the way. If you have multiple shots of the same scene, they should all match one another. Color correction can take time to do, but the result is always worth it. Finishing your video again. Make sure you spell any titles correctly. Always double check that names of people are correct. Always check place names and general grammar to see if it's correct. If you are in doubt about spelling, always copy and paste it until a spell checker like Microsoft Word. Or get another person to check your titles just in case you missed something. Finishing again. When you have finished all this, you should export a final high-quality version of your video. This can be used for archive purposes and for making of other versions of your video for DVD, Blu-ray, and the internet. A final full-resolution version of your finished video is always useful in case you need to create other media versions in the future. Now, for me, all I want is an MP4. You do not need to give me the full overblown version. It would be way too large of a file to upload to our website anyway. It wouldn't go into Blackboard, the full version, I'm sure. Okay, let's put that away. I think we have one more that I'd like to look through. Video editing 3. Editing tools. One of the advantages about editing on a smartphone or a desktop computer is there are many different ways to perform an edit. There are a huge variety of different editing tools available, but there are common ones that you will find in most editing packages. Listed here are just a few of the more general tools you may come across to help you with your editing. The tools we're about to look at, you definitely can find in Premiere. Drag and drop editing. Drag and drop editing is a form of editing where you drag your clips from a bin or folder and drop it onto your timeline for you to edit. Once the clip exists on your timeline, you can cut it up and move it about to build your sequence. This is a good method for building a rough cut quickly. You can also drag multiple selected clips to the timeline and then, do multiple cutting, do quick cutting quickly. 3-point edit. This is a system I use and one that you should be comfortable with as well. 3-point editing allows you to select a part of your source clip before you drag it to your timeline. You do this by selecting an in on your clip where you would like it to start and an out point where you would like it to end. By the way, there's a keyboard shortcut I for in point, O for out point. These are the first two selected points. You then select a point on your timeline, which is the third point. When you drag your clip with the in and out points, it will only drag the content between those 2 points to the point you have selected on your timeline. By the way, the point we select on the timeline is normally where you put the playhead. You use the source window to go ahead and set the in and out point. You put your playhead where you want it to be, and then you drag that clip and drop it onto the timeline. JKL editing. This is something also well worth practicing and learning. If you're editing with a keyboard, you can use the JKL keys to reverse, pause, play, or play forward your clips. As opposed to say and. Pause and play forward your clips. The J key will reverse a clip, the K key will pause a clip, and the L key will play it forward. JKL. Very important keys to get comfortable with. By using these keys, you can quickly review clips while setting in and out points Repeatedly tapping the J key will speed up the reverse, and repeatedly tapping the L key will speed up the fast forward. Insert and overwrite editing. If you're dragging a clip or using 3-point editing, you will often have the choice to insert it onto the timeline or overwrite a clip that is already there. To do this, you use the insert or overwrite tools. When you insert a clip onto the timeline, it will move all the other clips that come after it further down the timeline. That's called a ripple. When you drop in with an insert, all the clips move away and down the timeline in a ripple cut. Again, returning to insert and overwrite editing. When you overwrite a clip on the timeline, it will delete any other clips that were there. It will not move any clips that follow it. Which track you have selected in your timeline will also affect how your insert or overwrite edits work. Trimming. Once you have a rough cut, and you do now, of your video, you can use the trimming tool to tidy up your edits. Depending on your editing application, when you enter the trimming window, you will see the last frame of the incoming edit in the left viewer and the first frame of the outgoing clip in the right viewer. In the trimming setting, you can extend or shorten each clip in the left or right viewers. You can do this in different ways by using the ripple, the roll, slip and slide tools. By the way, these are all tools you'll become more comfortable with a little practice. These tools can be used in the trimming setting or on the timeline. By the way, you'll be probably doing most of your trimming just directly on the timeline, but Premiere does have a trimming tool that you can go into if you'd like to use it. Trimming continue. The ripple and roll tools will allow you to change and edit between clips. The ripple tool allows you to lengthen or shorten either the outgoing or the incoming clip. All the clips on your timeline beyond this point will move up or down the timeline, adjusting to the change in duration. That was that ripple we talked about a moment ago. The roll tool does the same as the ripple tool, but the clips beyond this edit point will not move and will remain unchanged. The roll tool just literally rolls the clip you're moving. Think of it as moving it around on the clips that are on either side of it. It's moving over the top of one or over the top of the other. You'll see. Trimming continued. The slip and slide tools, actually, let me say it again. The roll tool does the same as the ripple tool, but the clips beyond this edit point will not move and will remain unchanged. Just think of it that way for now. I was actually wrapping a couple of concepts together. We're about to talk about what I was about to talk about, and that's called the slip and slide tool. The slip and slide tools involve 3 clips, the selected clip and the 2 clips that are on either side of it. If you use the slip tool and select the middle clip of these 3 parts, you can drag it forward in time. The first shot will then extend and fill the gap that you leave behind. The last shot will shorten, so all 3 clips will still add up to the same amount of time. So the 3 clips still take up the same amount of space, but they have changed their duration within themselves because you've either shortened or lengthened them by moving the center one around. The slide tool does a similar job, but it will not change the duration of the clips that surround it or change the duration of a sequence. It literally slides on top of them. That's what I was trying to say earlier, and I probably confused you. But the slide tool, you'll need to try all these out to get comfortable. But the whole idea is that these are ways of making trimming, okay? You're all going to have to do a lot of trimming. Okay, the match frame. Match frame is another useful tool to use If your editing application has it, and definitely Premiere does, if you have already added a clip to your timeline, but would like to see what you left out, basically what's on either side of it that you cut away and you can't remember, you can use Match Frame to find the original source clip in your project. To do this, you place your cursor on the clip on your timeline and then select the Match Frame icon or keyboard shortcut. This is useful for finding a clip in a hurry without having to search through your entire project to find it. What happens is the clip you'd like to take a look at loads into the source monitor, the one on the left, and you can easily see what footage is on the left or the right of the cut that you made. Auto scrubbing, a very useful technique. Basically, this is just dragging the time indicator up and down your timeline. Audio scrubbing allows you to hear the audio of your source clip as fast or slow as you review it in your source window or timeline. This is useful when searching for a particular line of dialogue or sound effect. It also means you can review the sound of many video clips, narration, or music quickly so you can find the right part. Image enhancement effects. Most editing applications have color correction and grading effects. And by the way, Premiere definitely does. If you have problems with your image, these tools can help you solve them. Color correction tools give you control over contrast, brightness, saturation, and color balance. By the way, memorize that, and that's something important that you're all going to start doing and hopefully be comfortable doing. You're going to want to change contrast, brightness, saturation, and color balance if needed. To get these values right, they often come with a set of image scopes, like a waveform monitor and something called the RGB parade. These scopes will allow you to analyze your imagery, and by using the color correction tools, make desired adjustments. You can also use your eye. I use my eye a lot to make those adjustments, and that's really what I would expect you to be doing very soon. Image enhancement effects continued. Grading tools, color grading now we're talking about, create a look to your image that you can use over a whole scene, not just individual clips, but the whole scene. If you're grading a spooky castle, you could give it a blue look to make it look colder. Or if you're grading a scene on a beach, you could add an orange look to make it look warmer. Grading is a great way to create different moods and influence the emotions of your audience. You've seen an effect often, whether you know it or not, called day for night, where quite often night scenes are actually shot by Hollywood during the day, but they tint them blue and print them dark to make us think it's night. But that again is a form of color grading. Motion effects. Motion effects allow you to change the timing of a clip. You can slow down a clip or speed it up. These are really fun effects to try out, and you probably should try them out at some point yourself. You can also freeze an image to give you a still frame. Some editing applications allow you to do speed ramps, allowing you to change the speed up or down within the same clip. I'm sure you've seen that look before. You can also use motion effects to move in an image or zoom out. This allows for panning, tilting, or zooming on still photographs. By the way, we have a project coming up before the semester is over that you will be panning, tilting, and zooming on still photographs. In fact, on still photographs that you take yourself. Compositing. Compositing tools allow you to remove parts of the image that are white, black, or different colors so they are transparent. By doing this, you can stack multiple clips on a timeline to build up one image. Compositing tools allow you to adjust the alpha, luma, chroma, and matte keying of your video clip. This will allow keying out of a background of a person shot in front of a green screen and replacing the background with another image. Be aware, though, that compositing takes skill and patience to get it right. I do quite a bit of compositing myself and have done, over the years. I do love doing it, but it does take patience and it does take practice. I will tell you the truth. Titles. Most editing applications have a title tool, and Premiere definitely does, and we will make use of it. This can create simple text over your video in an advanced text tool, or in an advanced text tool, create fully animated titles with 3D effects. Whatever title tool you have should be able to change the font, text size, and color of the text, and maybe add a background banner. This is useful if you're adding a lower third title to name someone on screen. This text tool is useful for giving your movie a main title, which we will be doing these kinds of things, believe me, on your movies, and for adding a rolling title at the end, naming the people who helped make it. Okay, that's it. Let's actually go back now to our other view. Okay, I'm back again. Let's see if we have any comments here. And if we don't, I guess I've once again just explained things so wonderfully that there aren't any questions. But, you can always reach out to me. I think by now you realize that. But we basically have come to the end of our evening. So, hold on just a minute here. Let me grab my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting something that I wanted to tell you. Well, actually, I think that's it. Well, that's it for this evening. Thank you for coming. And remember that email is the best way to contact me. Have a good evening, everyone, and I'll talk to you later.